So, when you're interested in Star Wars and you're a Star Wars fan, like I consider myself to be, it's almost inevitable that you're eventually going to notice weird little details about the movies that just really don't make any sense. Things like, why is there one random TIE fighter in the middle of nowhere? Why did Boba Fett die in such a weird and kind of pathetic manner? And also, how did these stormtroopers not notice Obi-Wan? As it turns out, there are two characters in Star Wars that are always in the background of the movies and are responsible for nearly every weird plot inconsistency and groan-inducing line of dialogue in the entire saga. These characters ruined Star Wars, but they may be the only ones strong enough to save it now. Let's talk about Tag and Bink. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Taylor Campbell here and welcome back to Comic Crush, my little show on the internet where I talk about comic books and stuff. And today, the stuff we're talking about this book, Star Wars, Tag and Bink Were Here. As you could probably guess, Tag and Bink is a book about two characters named Tag and Bink, who just so happen to be in the background of almost every scene of importance within Star Wars. The full story takes place over 4 chapters. We have the first chapter, which takes place over A New Hope, then The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Attack of the Clone Menace. It's the prequel. This is probably one of the funniest side-splitting comedies I've ever read, and the fact that it takes place around Star Wars just makes it even funnier. So let me tell you about the story here. Our story starts with the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you, it's an old Sith legend. Turns out, Darth Plagueis could use the Force to influence the midichlorians to create life. But he didn't quite understand the full implications of what this meant. Little did he know that messing with the midichlorians that way would lead to the births and subsequent Force abilities of Tag and Bink, and even the destruction of Krypton. Really, it's in the book, see? Right there. So, there you go, Star Wars takes place in the DC universe, it's confirmed. Tag and Bink were barely able to register as Jedi on the Force sensitivity test administered by Jedi Masters Jay and Silent Bob, and became constant frustrations for the Jedi Order. One day they went to study for a test and accidentally uploaded a virus into the main computer that thankfully only deleted the small water planet beyond the Outer Rim, something no one would miss. As it turned out, people did miss it. And word travels fast, so everyone from Jango Fett to the cast of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and even Buzz Lightyear has heard about it. There you go. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command takes place in the Star Wars and DC universe. It's confirmed. It's in the book. So to get out of the responsibility of this, Tag and Bink boarded the first transport off Coruscant to lie low until the pressure stops. Along the way, they meet Anakin, who obviously has a thing for the hot senator from Naboo with the awesome midriff. Their words. So they strike a deal. The boys will help Anakin win over the senator, and Anakin will help them get back to the Jedi Temple and smooth out the whole missing planet thing. Anakin kept going off script, though, talking about like sand and whatever, but eventually, with a bit of work, he was able to implement Tag and Bink's tips and eventually win over the Princess Senator, while Tag and Bink were feeding him lines from off-screen. Somewhere in the middle of all of this, Anakin decided that he needed to go off to Geonosis and to Tatooine and like a bunch of other planets and start a big intergalactic war that goes on for like 3 years. And in those 3 years, Tag and Bink were just planet hopping, constantly getting lost and stuck until, at the very end of the Clone Wars, they were finally able to get back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. They get back to the temple just in time to see Anakin is killing everyone, but seeing as they were responsible for Anakin finding love, he chose to spare them if they promised to never do Jedi business again. And so they did. Fast forward about 18 years, Tag and Bink are rebel soldiers on the Tantive 4. But when Vader came, the two abandoned ship by impersonating a couple of stormtroopers with plans to defect, escape, and down smoothies on Alderaan. Thankfully, Alderaan isn't that far away. I mean, technically, it's still not that far away. So now Tag and Bink are stuck on the Death Star and given a super boring assignment to stand around and guard a tractor beam control panel, though their hearts really aren't into it and they aren't paying much attention to what's happening. Eventually, our brave heroes were able to escape the Death Star using the shuttle that was originally meant for Grand Moff Tarkin, but he's all like, "An odd moment of triumph? Evacuate? No!" And so they took the shuttle, but the explosion of the Death Star ended up damaging the hyperdrive of that shuttle, and it took them like 3 months to get to Yavin 4 just below them. When they got there, they came face to face with Boba Fett. Tag and Bink were able to tie him up and left the bounty hunter stranded on Yavin 4. Hopefully this doesn't come back to haunt them later. Don't worry, it will. Tag and Bink need to find the rest of the rebels, and their only lead is a connection with Lando Calrissian from back in the day. You see, Lando kept using this story that he stole from Bink as a pickup line to pick up girls, and so Bink figured that Lando owes him at least a new hyperdrive. Turns out, Lando is the guy to go for if you need a hyperdrive. Who knew? Of course, when they get there, the whole city is overrun with Imperial forces and forcing them to make another escape. And then we get to episode 6, and there's a slight discrepancy. You see, the original version of Tag and Bink in episode 6 was published in Star Wars Tales number 12. I talked about that series briefly. You can see the video to it, I'll link it up there, and then I'll also put it in the comments below. In the original version, Tag and Bink meet up with Lando at a Big Boy Burger with Mike and Sully from Monsters, Inc. and Alien and the Predator. So, there you go. Monsters, Inc. takes place in the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command DC Star Wars universe, along with Alien vs. Predator. It's confirmed. It's in the book. Tag and Bink are recruited to help get Han Solo back from Jabba, but things go south, and Tag and Bink are captured, then thrown into a Sarlacc pit. By sheer luck, they were able to escape and create a truce with Boba Fett. But this story was short, it didn't have a real ending, so the writer Mark Rufio decided to release a special edition version of The Return of Tag and Bink. A version of the story as the writer originally intended for it to be read. Just a little cheeky joke for those of us who know about the special editions and either like or hate them. We're back in episode 6 and the boys are stuck with Lando once again. This time though, having lost Boba Fett and Mos Eisley, Tag and Bink infiltrate Jabba's palace. Tag dressed in Boba's armor and Bink dressed as a guard. Slowly they watch the heroes' plans fall apart over and over again until they get to the skiff. Tag jumps onto a barge to try and help Luke Skywalker, who is doing a very spectacular job at not hitting anything, technically speaking. But he gets whammied by a blind Han Solo and Bink falls off the barge and into a Sarlacc pit. Thankfully, Boba Fett's ex-girlfriend was able to find the two heroes and fish Tag out and got them in contact with Manny Bothans, who has secret plans for a space station so powerful that it could annihilate an entire planet. Not like we haven't seen that before, right? Unfortunately, though, Manny Bothans died to bring us this information. Finally, Tag and Bink were able to take the Imperial shuttle, and they actually escorted the Emperor to the Death Star. And they're now under the guise of the red-robed Imperial Guards. They were invited to leave when Vader and Luke entered the throne room, but while the elevator is here, our two absent-minded friends decided to go around the pillar instead. And rather than return to the front and go down the elevator, they decided to stay in the back because they could tell there was some family squabble going on. And they didn't want to look like idiots. As if they've looked so intelligent up to this point, as Bink would point out. The Death Star ends up exploding, but that's okay because Tag and Bink don't die. They just become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Now obviously this is a comedy story that was never canon, never supposed to be taken as canon. Though, I mean, Star Wars canon seems to be whatever you want to make of it, and sometimes I like to choose that this is actually happening in the background, just because it's so funny. This story fits solidly into the buddy comedy tradition. It's Wayne's World, it's Bill and Ted, it's the Epic of Gilgamesh. The two guys are kind of idiots, and each plays the part of comedian and straight man at any moment in the story. And it's not just the two guys creating comedy in the world they are in, but also reacting to the strangeness this world and its situations have to begin with. Because if you were an extra in the Star Wars universe, the main characters would probably make a lot of choices that just don't make any sense at all. This is one of the funniest commentaries on Star Wars, and it was officially released by Lucasfilm and Dark Horse Comics. And it was so popular that it was one of the first comic books that Disney decided to re-release under the Legends banner. In fact, Tag and Bink were so popular and so well loved by fans that they almost had a canonical appearance in Solo, even. And they were about to get a short film off of it. But hey, now that we're here, I think it would be really cool if Disney would go ahead and bring Tag and Bink back into Star Wars and make another set of stories set in the sequel trilogy. That would be so funny. They could play off of the "no one is ever really gone" line and all of those weird things that make the sequel trilogy both strange and hard to watch. They could adapt and change, and we could put Tag and Bink in there, and it would make the movie so much funnier in my mind and give me something to smile about rather than something to be sad about. Episode 8 especially makes me sad. Tag and Bink could really go a long way to fix it. Though I don't think Disney will ever do anything like that, because I think they take their Star Wars movies way too seriously, and at the same time not seriously enough to plan them. I don't know. George Lucas loved Star Wars, you could tell that, especially since he signed off on this and said it was okay and it was funny. In any case, Tag and Bink Were Here is highly recommended by me. If you've never picked up a Star Wars comic before, this is the one you need to grab. It plays on Star Wars enough to keep you laughing, but never truly goes as far as to mock the series. So, it's respectful, but it's still so funny. Tag and Bink is the perfect balance between comedy and commentary. So yeah, there's that. This book is relatively easy to find now, actually. You can find it on Comixology pretty easily. All of the chapters are there. You could get it all in one edition like I have. And if you don't want to get the digital version, it was a really popular book. Chances are, if you have a decent local comic shop, you can probably find this in its backlog. And if you like this book, then you definitely also should check out Star Wars Tales if you can find it. Star Wars Tales has a lot of different short stories based on the Star Wars universe. Some of them are serious, some of them are silly, like this one is, particularly ones like Skippy the Jedi Droid. I should talk about Skippy at some point. So, what do you think of Tag and Bink? And should they come back? And do you think Star Wars should allow itself to have more comedic tones? Let's go ahead and talk about it in the comments below. And hey, until next time. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day. And remember to always be your best self.